Good morning. Welcome to the North Shore Unitarian Church, where our mission is to empower people to live with greater depth, meaning, and purpose. And my name is Ross Harvey, and this is my assistant, Valentina Harvey. I'm a member of your Board of Trustees, and I just would like to say what a great honor it is to be a member of the Board of Trustees, to be accepted into our congregation and being invited to be on the Board of Trustees. Gabby and I started out in this church almost 8 years ago, and I know it was 8 years because it was just before Jackson was born, my son, and we were looking for, Gabby and I were looking for a community to raise our children in, and we were definitely sort of shopping around trying to find something that would suit us. And when we came across this Unitarian church idea, we went to our first service, and at the end we both looked at each other and said, yeah, I think this is going to fit us and our new family just perfectly. And I know there's sort of broadly two groups of people in this room today, and a bunch of us have come from some other background and found that didn't suit us, and then found that the Unitarian philosophy and seven principles really suited us. And then there's a bunch of us who were actually born into it, such as our Reverend Barbara, who were born into Unitarianism and have been Unitarians their whole life. And I'm very pleased to say that at my house, in our family, half of us chose to become Unitarians, and half of us are lifelong Unitarians. So. And I hope if you're visiting today that it suits you, because it sure has suited us, and it's just been a wonderful evolution of me to get more and more involved in the church, and then to have some people here think maybe I can contribute to it. So I'm very looking forward to being on the board and representing all of you for the next couple of years. And I'm very pleased to be up here today to welcome you all in. We're a busy congregation with many things going on here. Please note the announcements in your order of service and on the screen. And I'd like to make sure that if there's any newcomers or visitors who are here today, we are really glad you're here. And like I said, I hope you find it as good a fit as my whole family has found it to be. So if you'd like to learn more about our community, I'd encourage you to sign in with your contact information with the iPad in the foyer. And if you have any questions about our congregation or the Unitarian Universalist tradition, our connections coordinator, Ariel, or any of your friendly volunteers wearing the greeter buttons would be happy to chat with you. And after the service, what's happening? Nothing's happening this afternoon. Coffee. We're inviting everybody down for coffee, and we'd love to speak more with you, or I'd like to speak with all of my Unitarian friends after. In this community, we celebrate people from all walks of life, no matter how you make your living or what your personal life philosophy is. No matter who you are or who you love, we hope that you will feel welcome here. And now please take a moment to turn off your cell phones and let go of your care, and we'll listen to this morning's prelude. Thank you very much.
Microphones, such a great thing, aren't they? We'll see if we can get the other one working, but it's all right. I'm, if anything, if not flexible. So good morning again. I'm Barbara Wells ten Hove, and for this next year, have the privilege and pleasure of serving you as your half-time consulting minister. And I want to thank you. I want to thank you for letting me into this room to worship with you. I want to thank you for letting me work with your wonderful leaders and get to know them. I want to thank you for your extraordinary staff and the amazing gifts that they bring to this congregation, gifts that they have shared with me in these last 2 weeks. And I want to thank you for allowing each other to be present during this challenging time. Showing up is an amazing thing and so important to do. So thank you for showing up in this place at this time on this beautiful day, to be among people who care about you, people who struggle with you, people who share your troubles. I hope that these last 2 weeks when I have been with you, that I have been able to share some of those troubles with you, and I hope that as I've wandered among you, as we've worshiped together, that you are all right with what comes next, which is some time of leaving. Because I am leaving today and won't be back among you in person for some weeks until August. And it's a strange bifurcated life we're going to be leading together. But as this song that my friend Lynn Unger wrote beautiful music to reminds us, when we come whoever we are into beloved community, we wander in and we worship together. And then we must learn to love the leaving, because leaving is an inevitable part of any community. And so, as we are with each other during this time, let us hold fast, but not too fast. Let us hold on to each other with love, but learn how also to let go with love as well. For though we may have broken our vows 1,000 times, we are here now to be blessed in love together. So let us sing this amazing song. It's words by Rumi, and the words are, come whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving. And then this beautiful image, ours is no caravan of despair. And then you're invited in again, come, yet again come. If some of you with lower voices know the wonderful bottom part, though you've broken your vows 1,000 times, you can just sing it and it will be there. But for now, let us rise in body or spirit and we will sing, come, whoever you are.
Good morning. I'm Ryan Gunther, and as some of you may know, last summer I toured a fringe show to festivals across the continent. A festival is a strange community that comes together briefly like leaves on a river, and then breaks apart, with some coming together again in the next city and some washing ashore, never to be seen again. But for that brief period, it is a community. When I was in Edmonton, a woman from Australia had been having a very difficult festival. Her crowds had been small, and she was losing money. Her final show was at midnight on the last night, which would be a tough sell for anybody, but especially for a very personal show about her battle with breast cancer. I know, not the way most people want to end their festival. On top of that, the person that she'd been planning to get a ride with needed to leave before the last day to make the long drive to Victoria. So she faced a dilemma: fly to Victoria and pay baggage fees for all of her props just to do a show that potentially would have nobody at it, or cancel the show and pay a penalty so that she could catch her ride. Both options carried a cost that she could not afford. But as soon as other artists heard about her predicament, the community came together to support her, even though many of us had met her barely a week before. Somebody with a van could take anything that she didn't absolutely need to do her show onto Victoria. Somebody else could get her to the airport the next day. I had a projector and a screen that she could use if she wanted. And a dozen of us agreed to go and watch, so that even if nobody else came, she would at least have an audience. But people did come, and it ended up being her biggest crowd of the entire festival. And even though she performed with no props and an unfamiliar projector setup, nobody seemed to care. And so this morning, I dedicate the chalice to the flame burning inside each of us, which could light up the world if we only let it show. We kindle this flame as a symbol of our gathering.
The first time I remember coming to Canada was in the fall of 1973, and I was 13 years old, and my father, a Unitarian minister, was a friend of Duke Gray, who had been called to serve the church in Toronto. We drove up from Virginia, my dad and mom, my sister Mary and me, to attend Duke's installation, 2.5-hour long installation, at the church there. Mary and I were delighted to discover some other youth who knew what the letters LRY meant. Any of you know what those letters mean? Call it out, friends. Liberal religious youth. One of the boys wore a top hat. How cool was that, man? Well, they took us under their wing for the weekend we were there. And it was chilly in the streets of Toronto, but we wandered around anyway at night, and I remember thinking, wow, it's so safe and clean here. It doesn't look anything like my city, Washington, D.C. Now, I know Canada is no paradise, but I've always loved coming here. When I moved to Bellevue, Washington in 1985 to serve as associate minister at East Shore Unitarian there, the Pacific Northwest District of the UUA still existed, and British Columbia was a part of it. Over the first 13 years of my ministry, I came to BC a lot. We had so many assemblies here, and at one of them, I can't remember exactly which, but I think it was in Kelowna, I learned the song the choir just sang. I discovered that it was written by the well-known Canadian folk singer Connie Caldor. Like so many Canadian musicians, can we say Joni Mitchell and Neil Young, Connie Caldor takes a gorgeous natural metaphor, the Little Wood River, and gives it depth through tying it to something we humans need to remember. The heart is bigger than trouble, and the heart is bigger than doubt, but the heart sometimes needs a little help to figure that out. Isn't that just so beautiful? She's an amazing songwriter, and this is such a gorgeous song. As you'll learn about me, I often use songs as texts for sermons, so let me unpack the words of Wood River for you, or at least the primary theme. And so I start with something we humans can really understand: trouble. Now, I've only been with you for 2 weeks, 2 very full weeks, but I have heard stories of trouble already. A lot of you are struggling with loss and grief. Some of you are estranged from people you love. Some of you have issues at work or with your health or with your friends. And certainly, as a congregation, you're dealing with a trouble that always comes with loss. For you have had a really big loss. I know. Having your beloved co-ministers Marcus and Emily leave because they had to for their health and well-being was devastated. You loved them. They loved you. Everybody expected their ministry to last 4 years, and then reality hit, and after many tears and gifts and memories shared, they left. And then a week later, I came. And though I'm glad I'm here, I share your sadness. Though I am sure we can and will move forward, it's hard, it's a big loss, and loss can really trouble the waters. Hearts broke when Marcus and Emily left. Hearts ache in their absence. But as the song reminds us, the heart is bigger than trouble. Trouble is inevitable. It comes with the gift of being human. Nary a one of us escapes it. So how do our hearts heal from trouble? Now, I've thought about this a lot during the time I've been with you. Frankly, I've thought about it all of my ministry, perhaps all of my life. How do we deal with the heartbreak and challenges of existence? How do we move through doubt and fear and struggle to a place of hope and possibility? How do we find it in our hearts to love one another through it all? As I've thought about this, an image came to me from a famous children's book. You may remember, and I realize that it's June, but go with me here. You may remember How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Yes, I imagine some of you remember this book, and how at the end the Grinch realizes the true meaning of Christmas, and how when he does, his heart grew 3 sizes that day. Well, I think our hearts can grow 3 sizes, or more accurately, in 3 directions if we let them. And with such growth, I believe, can come healing and hope from our troubles. The first way our hearts grow is through our relationship with our family and our relationship with our friends. When trouble strikes, they are the first ones we go to. For as the song the choir just sang reminds us, when that sun goes down, we'll throw our arms around each other and tell the dreams that are deep in the heart. Throwing our arms around the ones we love helps us so much, doesn't it? Being able to tell what is in our troubled hearts to those beloved friends is precious. I ask you to indulge me for a moment as I share my own recent experience with a troubled heart. It was just 2 years ago that the world my husband Jocko and I shared started to fall apart. First, 2 beloved mentors died. And then Jocko's dad. Then the awful American election. My sweet mama's death. And then a beloved friend. Then we retired, we moved, Jocko had his hip replaced, then we moved again. It was just a big cascade of loss, trouble, and change. I did not know how I was going to get through it. But I did. And how did I get through it? Because my sister took us into her home and cared for us while Jocko healed. Because my friends helped in every way they could, including just listening to me cry. Because I found comfort in all the people in my life who were there for me. And thus, gradually, that trouble that seemed to always be nipping at my heels began to recede. What about you? Who do you turn to when you are troubled? Who can you throw your arms around and share deeply from the heart? Research says that people who have others in their life who they can rely on, even just a very few special ones, are healthier and happier. We truly need each other, particularly when trouble strikes. And that leads me to the second way our hearts can grow in the midst of trouble. And actually, it leads me to a place. This place. For me, a second way we face trouble with hearts full of love emerges when we come together in community, particularly religious community. Though I loved your story of your community at your festival. What a beautiful story. Thank you, Ryan. When we come here into this community, this religious community, we can create a home where our hearts are welcome, where our spirits are stirred, and where with help we can reach out to make the world better. Now, religious community is a pretty archaic concept. It's a very old-fashioned thing we do here. In much of the Western world, but particularly in the Pacific West, attendance and participation in religious community has plummeted. People claim to be spiritual but not religious, and they stay away from places like this in droves. So why then do you come? Why then do we come? Why do we carve out time each week to participate in this strange thing we call a worship service? Why do we have teachers talk about religion and values with our kids? Why do we sing and listen to music and sit in silence and light candles and even pray in the company of others? Why do we take time to listen to each other when we're troubled, bring casseroles when we're sick, and hold memorial services for those who have died? Sometimes I can't answer that question. It's a hard question to answer. And yet there's something in us that we feel, that I certainly feel. When I retired last year and didn't have to go to church, I wondered, would I make the effort? A lot of retired ministers never step foot in the door of a church. It's true. After laying down the mantle of ministry, bye-bye. But I couldn't stay away. And I don't just mean from working. I didn't work for over a year. I went to church. I sat in a pew. I found, perhaps like some of you have, that the act of gathering in community to, as I like to put it, talk about things that matter with people who care, is compelling. I need a place. Perhaps you do too, to bring my troubled spirit. I need a place, perhaps you do too, to wrestle with my doubts. I need a place, perhaps you do too, that lets me open my heart to trouble my own and others. I need a place, perhaps you do too, like this place, this religious community, this spiritual home. My friend, the Unitarian minister Mark Morrison Reed, who with his wife Donna served the downtown Toronto church for many years, wrote these words that have always spoken so powerfully to me. The central task of the religious community is to unveil the bonds that bind each to all. There is a connectedness, a relationship discovered amid the particulars of our own lives and the lives of others. Once felt, it inspires us to act for justice. It is the church that assures us that we are not struggling for justice on our own, but as members of a larger community. The religious community is essential, for alone our vision is too narrow to see all that must be seen, and our strength too limited to do all that must be done. Together, our vision widens and our strength is renewed. Powerful and true words. Together we do see more than we can alone. Together we can work for justice and reach out to others who may be even more troubled than we are. And in religious community, our strength is renewed. I am deeply aware that many of you are in great need of renewal of strength. These last few months have been so hard. You have done so well to let your beloved ministers go. You have been so strong, and they love you for it. I love you for it. And I know that coming here to church to be together now really matters. So I hope you'll come here when you can this summer. Sit with each other, talk to each other, grieve with each other. But I particularly hope, if you're in town, that you'll come and join me here again. I'll be here with you later in August. I'll be here on Sunday, August 19th and 26th. I want to be here with you again soon. I want to continue to grow in our relationship and find strength in our shared ministry as we explore in August that big concept of love. But now let me speak of the third way hearts can grow. And I do so by sharing one of my all-time favorite poems, short poem by the American poet and environmental activist Wendell Berry. When despair for the world grows in me and I wake in the night at the least sound, in fear of what my life and my children's lives may be, I go and lie down where the wood drake rests in his beauty on the water and the great heron feeds. I come into the peace of wild things who do not tax their lives with forethought of grief. I come into the presence of still water, and I feel above me the day-blind stars waiting with their light. For a time, I rest in the grace of the world and am free. May you, as our glorious summer unfolds, take time to get out into nature and let your heart begin to heal. Walk by the sea and notice how the waves ebb and flow, reminding you that the world is still spinning and life moves ever forward. Notice how the birds are silhouetted against the blue sky, and in your imagination, let your spirit join them as they soar. Hike or walk or swim or run or cycle until you are tired. Then let yourself rest and remember your bodies are precious and give them time to heal. Sit by a window and just watch the sun rise or set, knowing others all over the world are doing the same thing and you are not alone. However you experience nature, allow yourself to, as the poet reminds us, rest in the grace of the world and be free. Since I joined you as your minister just 2 weeks ago, I have been deeply moved by the ways your hearts have responded to the trouble that has touched you personally and as a congregation. I have seen a capacity to be caring in spite of pain, open in spite of anxiety, and loving in spite of concern. I feel blessed, and I hope you do too, that in this church community, troubled hearts are welcome, and the work of this congregation, the work that Mark Morrison Reed reminds us, is to unveil the bonds that bind each to all, continues in spite of our trouble, in spite of our pain. So now, as Toby shares some music with us, may you imagine your heart growing 3 sizes, 3 directions, toward the people you love, within this beloved community, and in the grace of the natural world. And as your hearts grow, may you begin to know healing. May you begin to know hope. May it be so. Amen, and blessed be.